everybody dies twice. Once when your physical body leaves this world, once when people stop saying your name. And so if I were to die today when I was a closer, what would people say about me? Man, he was a great closer. He was a great employee and a great salesperson. Now, 5.5, 6 years later, that I've worked with well over 500 business owners, and between myself and my business owners have done over $100 million in sales, what would people say about me? Dude, that guy changed my life.
What's your quickest way you're going to get back to making six figures a month? All the way from Tampa, Florida, we have one of the best in high ticket sales. Somebody that can teach you how to do the same, but like has been an extremely successful in high ticket and is teaching, not only sales systems, but even teaches, individual sales reps who aren't at the level that they want for their revenue or for what they're bringing in commission wise. This guy does it all. So we'd like to welcome to the show, without further ado, Mr. Austin Medlin. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me, guys.
Good to see you. Now, I notice, you've got a pretty cool setup behind you there.
Yeah, it does.
You've probably done a few podcasts, and I noticed 3 gold records. What's up with that, man? What are these gold records going on? Obviously, I know, but tell the people.
Well, it's kind of funny when people come to my house and they're not in the online high ticket space. They think I'm like a music producer with the 3 ClickFunnels plaques behind me. They're like, what are those records? Like, are you a producer? I'm like, yeah, I'm not musically talented at all. Entrepreneurially talented. I can build businesses, but I definitely can't produce music. But yeah, behind me, I got 3 ClickFunnels plaques. Now I'm hunting the 4th, which would be the $10 million plaque for my company, closesales.com. So it's been an awesome journey over the past couple of years in the online space.
So what I want to ask first off, like right out of the gate, is a lot of times, it's the misfits that become the entrepreneurs. And then the ones that don't have the vision as much, sometimes, and I'm not saying that for like me, because that's why I attach to Russell. My vision isn't nearly as big as Russell, but I can sell, right? And so I jump in and I'm curious, like, what's your story and why sales? Was it just something that you were good at, or something that you're like, man, if you can sell, you can do anything? Talk us through that. Why sales?
Yeah, I think some salespeople are born and some are created with enough grit and tenacity and the right mentor over time. I was a sales guy the day I was born. Like literally, I was like 4 or 5 years old and I was nowhere to be found in the house. And I had gone into the pantry and taken these little boxes of raisins that came in like a big bag from my Costco. And I took the individual boxes and I was door to door at like 4 years old trying to sell these boxes of raisins.
Who
I
doesn't
was
want
the one that
raisins?
was selling candy in school. I was going to my neighbors. Like when I was 12 or 13, I started a weed business. So I would go to my neighbors and knock on their door and ask to pull the weeds out of their garden for them for a couple bucks. I was doing anything and everything I could to like make money, do sales, kind of be an entrepreneur. I just really was doing that since I was born. Some people I think are created or they fall into it with the right guidance and mentorship and belief in themselves. But for me, it was something I was kind of destined to do, I think, for a very long time, ever since I was born.
Now, what did you study? You mentioned that, you're from Tampa, you went to UCF. What did you study?
Business.
Business. Okay. Did you graduate?
Yeah, I tried to drop out so many times, and
Why
every
didn't you?
time,
Now I'm curious.
yeah, I would call my dad and be like, and my parents are divorced, and I would call my dad and be like, Dad, I'm done with school, and he's like, I support you 100%. You're probably never going to use a degree anyway. And I'm like, yeah, and then I would call my mom, and she's like, son, I
Yeah.
am paying for you to go to school so you can party your ass off for 4 years. Just please get the degree, like the diploma or whatever it's called. She's like, please just get it just in case. And I'm like, but I don't want it. And she's like, I'm paying, just do it for me. And I was like, look, if you want to pay for me to go to school, I'm very fortunate, very blessed that she paid for me to go to school.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I told her, I was like, look, because I had bright futures and things like that, I said, if this runs out and I have one class left that I have to pay for out of pocket, I will drop out of college one class short. I do not care. That's how little I value this degree. And after I graduated, I didn't walk. And then I shipped the diploma, I think it's called, degree, whatever it is. I shipped it to her house and I was like, Merry
There you go,
Christmas.
Mom. That's for you.
Here's the degree you forced me to get. Yes.
Dude, I don't know where mine is. Now I think about it, I have no idea. It's crazy. It's a piece of paper.
Yeah.
What was the degree in? Business?
So
Business management?
it was supposed to be general business, like administration. But what happened was I was halfway through college. I got kicked out of school for a year. There's like a whole hazing incident thing, and I had to take a gap year. And so that gap year, I was building a network marketing company. I was making like
Taking everything I
1,000 to
have not
15.
to ask about that incident, but keep going.
Yeah, I was making like $1,000 to $1,500 a week doing network marketing. I was speaking on stages. I was going to
No
Tony
way.
Robbins seminars. I was flying all over the country doing public speaking, stuff like that. And I was determined to get rich in that 1 year and then never go back to school. And I did make a lot of money at that time. But in my gap year, they changed the general business into something called integrated business. So when I
Mm.
went back to go to school, they were like, oh, by the way, your degree doesn't exist anymore because you took a year off. You have to do this new integrated business thing. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but do I have another option? And they're like, no. And I was like, sweet. So I did the integrated business thing. It was fantastic. And the reason it was
Really?
fantastic, it was probably the only degree in the country at the time that would actually prepare you for the real world. So it was all smaller classes with 60 kids or less. And every other week, you got a new group, a new team to work with. They would give you a project to complete in those 2 weeks. And they said, it's not up to us as the teacher. We don't care how it gets done. Figure it out and do it as a team. And every project had a presentation. So what I would do, it's the real world or supposed to be. So I would show up to my new group and say the same thing every time. Hey guys, just so you know, I'm not prepping the PowerPoint. I'm not doing the research. I'm not writing the paper. Matter of fact, I'm not going to do anything at all. But what I will do is I will present this for us on presentation day and I will ace this presentation and we will get an A+ on this project. And they loved me. They're like, great. We hate public speaking. We don't want to do it.
Perfect. This is
They did
real
all the
world
work.
stuff.
Yeah, they did all the work. I would meet them an hour before class. They would show me all the work they've been grinding on for 2 weeks. I would stand in front of the class for 15 minutes. I would present it and we would just get an A on everything we did. So it ended up
Sick.
working out pretty well.
Dude, our
That's awesome.
backstories are so eerily similar. We'll have to get into that offline, but this is hilarious. Um, so when I was in school, like really around the same time you were as well, I started to stumble across Dan Kennedy and wanted to get into entrepreneurship, wanted to get into just building my own thing. And he said, if you want to be a successful businessman, you need to sell encyclopedias door to door. So I tried to find the closest thing that existed to that at the time, 2015. When you got out of school, did you jump into sales, jump into entrepreneurship? It seems like you had a great segue. Shout out UCF, by the way. Let's go, Knights. What'd you do?
So in college, I was building a network marketing business, speaking on
Was
stages,
it
traveling
Vima?
around. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So,
Sorry.
so I had 1,500 people in 10 different countries. So I did very well with that. I was making like over $1,000 a week. I'd spend it all on at the bar that weekend and just having a blast. And when I was finishing up school, I probably had like maybe 6 to 8 months left. And I have been conditioned to become mentally unemployable because of the network marketing and the history of entrepreneurship. Like I was
Yeah.
just mentally unemployable. Like I cannot, I don't care if you pay me $1 million a year. I can't be told what to do and when to do it. Like I had to be an entrepreneur. Didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but my dad has always been an entrepreneur. And I called him and I said, hey, I need a job. And like, I refuse to work a job, but I will work with you. And then maybe I can grow and kind of take over your company. Probably the least sexy company on planet Earth. He owned a landscape company, doing about $300,000 a year in Tampa. And so when I was like 6 months out from graduation, I started working for him. And so I was sitting in the back of the class doing proposals and running credit cards and like helping him out with whatever he needed. And my teachers were always pissed because I'm the only one not paying attention in the back of the class. And I'm like, miss, like I got a 98 on your test last week. Like, cut me some slack. I'm building a 6 figure business here. Like, leave me alone. They hated me. I got sent to the dean multiple times. He's like, dude, if you get sent back here one more time, I will drop you out of this program and fail you out of college. And I was like, dude, you kind of be doing me a favor at that point. Like, don't tempt me with a good time. Um, so I built the landscape company. I ended up taking it over. I built it from 300,000 to 3 million a year in 3 years. So we grew from three
Wow.
trucks to 10 trucks, had 32 employees, 600 accounts that we were taking care of every single week. And I did that. But dude, it's landscape. I'm in Florida. It's hot. Like there's only so many homeowners I want to go meet and drive around and put miles on my truck and do that. So I burnt out from that over time and then got into the online world right after.
Wow.
Which is where you stumbled across a mutual friend of ours, right? Tell us that story.
Yeah, so well, my ex at the time and we started a coaching program. We did $111,000 in cash in 60 days, so that was pretty cool. But then we realized that we should just be partners and not business partners. So we split from doing the business stuff together. She was like, "You should be a high ticket closer," and I was like, "Great. What am I selling? I love selling houses, boats, cars. Like, what is a high ticket sale?" And she's like, "Yeah, no, none of that. there's these online coaching programs that are like us, but they're way bigger and they have sales teams and you just get on calls and sell their product and make commission. And I was like, sounds good. So I reached out to my mentor at the time. He plugged me in with a kind of like a sales staffing agency that just staffed high ticket closers and got an interview with Ad Outreach with Alaric. And I told the agency, I said, get me an interview. I'll get myself the job. They got me the interview. I got myself the job. And then I grinded out at Ad Outreach for 2.5 years. My first month ever, they were at about 300,000 in revenue in cash each month. Over the next 2.5 years, we built that to 1.7 million a month. And I took an ungodly amount of sales calls, thousands of sales calls, closed millions of dollars in cash, and had a lot of fun over there.
Dude, that's super cool. Tell us about what you learned in that process of someone who has had success from building a business before. Did you feel like you had all the prerequisites that you needed, or did you have a little bit of some humble pie when you started with them? And let's say call it high ticket sales.
I got slaughtered.
Really? How so?
Dude, I thought I was the man. I was like, oh, dude, I'm great at sales. Like, I'm going to walk in and crush this. I got absolutely just slaughtered
Mm.
on the phones. And after 1 month, I went back to my ex at the time and I said, hey, appreciate you telling me about this industry. Not for me. Like, I can't do this. Right. And now I would consider myself one of the most sought after sales trainers in the high ticket space. Now, this is 5.5, 6 years later. But my first month, I had a 12% close rate. I have a screenshot of it. I did $48,000 in sales on a 12% close rate and almost got fired. And I just had this ego where I was like, oh, I'm going to crush this. I'm so good at this. And I was just so friendly on the phones. Like I was so nice to people and they were like, dude, you're great. No, I'm going to follow up with you next week. I made all these friends. I made very little dollars.
So you were like the
Realized
relationship close guy, like from
You were in the
Challenge
friend
Show.
zone. Yeah.
I friend
Right.
zoned myself. I would get
Right.
on the call, super smiley, very high energy, like, oh, I just want to be liked. I want people to like me. That is the number one thing that I see with sales reps and business owners that take their own sales calls. They're so polite and so friendly, and they just have this need and desire to be liked. But you don't need to be liked for people to buy from you. You need to be trusted. They need to trust that spending money with you and your company is 100% going to solve the problem that they got on the call with you to solve. They have to trust that you're going to solve it. And if they like you or they don't, they will still buy from you if they trust you. If they don't trust you, they won't buy from you. And if you're too friendly, all the trust goes out the window. They just see you as a friend.
Interesting. Um, so what would you think it was more of a paradigm shift for you? Like more of a, let me phrase this better. More of a tactical shift or a mental shift or a little bit of both? Because I kind of see it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't know what you don't know. And I
Mhm.
just didn't know how to close these high ticket sales over Zoom, like in the remote world. I just didn't know what I didn't know. And as soon as I realized that whole like versus trust thing, I was like, okay, well, I don't want people to actively hate me, but I also don't need them to really love me. I just need them to trust me. So, how do I have something called authoritative leadership where they trust that paying me and the company I'm selling for is going to solve their problem? And what that came with was being a lot more silent. So I would ask a question and then I would just stop talking. Where most people, they ask a question, prospect starts talking. Then, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. All the verbal feedback, they're nodding their head, they're encouraging their prospect to ramble off into la la land. It was very neutral, very sitting back, very reserved, very like neutral is the best way to describe it. I'm not high, I'm not low, very neutral, which it's like a doctor walks in the room. When the doctor walks in, they're always neutral. They're not like, "Oh, Ben, how are you? Did you take the bus here today? Did you walk? How far do you live? Are you married? What?" Doctor, my arm is broken. Like, respectfully, I don't care. Can you fix me or not? Like, I
Yeah.
have a problem. I'm in pain. My house is on fire. Can you help me or not? So I took that doctor frame on my calls where I was very neutral, but obviously authoritative and professional, where I was just asking very intelligent questions over and over and over again to gather all the information from the prospect. That way, when I transitioned into my pitch, they actually believed what I was selling. If you walk into the doctor's office, they poke your arm, like, yep, it's broken. You need to fuse the bones together. You're like, whoa, time out, hold the phone. I don't care how many white coats you have. I'm probably going to go get a second opinion because you haven't done a proper analysis of my situation. So I don't trust the prescription that you're giving me. I did the exact same thing on my calls where I would spend a really long time doing deep intentional discovery. And I still to this day don't know if I made this up. I heard it somewhere or read it in a book. Like I can't find it anywhere. So maybe I made it up, but I don't want to give myself too much credit if I didn't. People gauge your level of intelligence based on the quality of the questions that you ask, not the statements that you make. And what that means is if we can just keep asking deep, intelligent questions, then people will gauge our intelligence to be very high, which makes them want to work with us or our company. What most people do is they just make statement after statement after statement to posture that they're really smart and can solve the problem. But that's not how people gauge your intelligence. So it was a whole paradigm shift around like deep, intelligent questions rather than posturing with statements and then just putting that into practice day in and day out. I was taking like 12, 14, sometimes 16 sales calls a day. So you're in the trenches for that many hours and doing that many reps, like you figure it out pretty quick.
So you go in there though, and you've got a little bit of an ego, and you think I'm just naturally good at, talking to people. And how did you learn that, oh my gosh, I got to sit back. I need to listen. I need to ask the right questions. Is this from a mentor? Was this you're listening to the people who are closing more than you? What was that process?
Well, 12% close rate told me I have a problem pretty quick,
Sure.
just on the numbers. But dude, really how I learned it is I had multiple mentors, right? I had like the CEO, I had the head of sales, and then at the time we had hired, back then he wasn't as big, but now today would be the biggest name making the most money in like the online high ticket sales space, right? And I had all three of these people kind of coaching me and telling me what to do. It just wasn't working. And I'm reading the scripts and I'm doing exactly what they told me, and it just wasn't landing. And it felt kind of weird for me and clunky. And I'm like, I would never say this. So I became a madman at reverse engineering the end result they were trying to get and then getting to that end result in a way that was in alignment for me. And so it wasn't fun, but it was a lot of call review of looking at my own sales calls and just reverse engineering. Okay, I said this, but it didn't land well. Why not? What could I have said different? What kind of confidence or brevity or tonality could I have shifted in order to get the end result? So it was taking everything they were giving me, looking at the end result, reverse engineering it, and then coming out with a way that was in alignment for me. My second month, I had like I think a 20 something percent close rate and did about 100,000 in revenue. By my third month, I cracked the code and I did a 48% close rate, did a little over $212,000 in revenue. And then for the next 2.5 years, I was their number one producer and then eventually their head of sales towards the end there. And pretty much led that team for 2.5 years once I kind of cracked that code and that nuance.
So you're doing this. Listen, sales guys, you can crush. Is it the long hours? Is it what that made you say, okay, one, I can make more impact? I'm just curious why you said, okay, now it's time for me to spread my wings, do my own thing. Thanks everybody for all the commissions. What makes you transition your own?
Yeah, I've made a little over $1 million in commissions as a closer. But dude, I'm ambitious. I've always been an entrepreneur, and like it or not, when you are a closer, you're only as good as the decisions that the CEOs make, right? If the CEO says, "Hey, we're going to modify the entire offer,"
Yeah, then
you don't
get
really
the
have a
lead.
say in that.
The offer's not good. Yeah.
If they say, "Hey, we're going to pivot all of our marketing and try something new," and then the call volume drops off a cliff, you're kind of stuck there. And so what happened was when I got really, really good at sales, people in my network started reaching out to me. They're like, dude, how much to coach me? And I'm like, dude, I don't have a coaching program. And they're like, I don't care. I will pay you for your time. Please just tell me what you know. And I was like, 5 grand for 10 calls. And they're like, done. Like, here's my credit card. And I'm like, let me create a PayPal account, right? Like I had nothing.
Yeah.
And so, but I started consulting these people and then they started getting incredible results. And I realized that I was actually having more fun teaching the highest paid skill set on planet Earth, which is sales, to other people. So then they could go make more money and have a bigger business and have a bigger impact on the world. And I realized that everybody dies twice, once when your physical body leaves this world, once when people stop saying your name. And so if I were to die today when I was a closer, what would people say about me? Man, he was a great closer. He was a great employee and a great salesperson. Now, 5.5, 6 years later, that I've worked with well over 500 business owners, and between myself and my business owners have done over $100 million in sales, what would people say about me? Dude, that guy changed my life. That guy taught me the highest paid skill set on planet Earth, which has put more food on my table than I know what to do with and allowed me to change the lives of the clients that I've enrolled into my program. So it's a much bigger legacy play. teaching people rather than just doing the one. It's not a high leverage skill. You can only take as many calls as you have hours in the day. But if I can teach people how to get good at sales, dude, I'm a fitness coach, right? Because I have so many fitness coaching clients. I'm helping women lose weight. I don't know anything about women's weight loss. I'm a guitar coach, right? Like I'm a music coach. Like I'm a coach through all of these people with the ripple effect of teaching them how to get better at selling their program so they can impact more lives, which is only possible by getting better at sales, which is a skill that I taught them.
Yeah. I'm curious, as you've coached, all these people, is there one like common theme that everybody does wrong and that you see over and over and over that you've got to correct? What would that be?
I think the size of people's business and the amount of money that they make is a direct reflection of the mindset that they have. Like, I can take someone who's not that talented, but they just radically and exceptionally believe in themselves, maybe for no reason. Maybe it's just blind arrogance of belief. And I can live with that. And I can teach them how to make millions of dollars a year, where you can take the most talented of individuals that have the craziest skill sets on planet Earth and are so dang good at what they do. But mentally up here, they just don't have it. And that's what I have to fix. Most of the clients that hire me have good raw talent, but their mindset caps their income. I call it an internal thermostat. Everyone kind of has a financial thermostat. Maybe it's 3 grand a month, 10 grand a month, 100 grand a month, 10 million a month, like whatever it is, everyone kind of has that thermostat. And that's why their revenue kind of hovers maybe a little above, a little bit below, right on target, a little bit above, a little bit below, never really changes. They have the information, but it's the mindset piece that unlocks the scale and the growth. We're like, oh, I am worthy of making more money. I can make more money. I can have a bigger impact and more responsibility. So once we unlock the mindset piece, that's when the income becomes unlimited.
Yeah, so it's not so much tactics or strategy.
Yeah.
If you had
I
to
mean,
go
yes,
down to,
there are some tactical things in there, but I could teach you all the tactics. But if A, you don't believe the work or work for
yeah,
you, or your offer, your niche, or whatever limiting belief you want to come up with, it doesn't matter what I teach you if you don't believe it's going to work anyway.
that's so true. Well,
Mm,
let's dive in though, just for fun. Let's dive into
yeah.
maybe some of the tactics. I love how you said, hey, like, I've done a fair amount of sales, and it is so funny when you're listening to somebody else. A lot of times you can hear everything else they're doing wrong, but sometimes when you listen to yourself, it's sometimes harder to do that. I love that you kind of became a student of the game. Like all good athletes, they'll watch film and listen. Was it easier for you to critique other people as you listen to sales calls or yourself?
Well, in the beginning, I didn't really know what was good and what was bad. So all
Mm.
I could do, like, even if I listened to someone else, I mean,
You're like, yeah, I guess
I
that's
don't
good.
know.
They
Yeah, I
sold.
think it sounds good to me. I'd probably buy it, but like the prospect didn't buy it, so something went wrong. So I didn't feel like I had the right to critique other people. And so what I would do if I did listen to somebody else's sales call, I would only write down the things that I liked, not the things that I didn't like. Because even if I didn't like it, that doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
Mm.
That's just a personal opinion that I have. But if I suck at sales at the time, my opinion doesn't really matter anyway. So I would just go back and critique the heck out of myself. Like, hey, you were too long winded here. Hey, you didn't sound confident here. Like, I would just critique every last little nuance of my own sales calls. And then I would study that over and over and over again. So that way, when I got on the next call, then I could get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. Now, I mean, dude, my close rate averages between 91 and 98% month over month over month over month. Like, am I perfect? No, because I'm not at 100%. But it's like, if people aren't buying from me, they're probably just not a good fit realistically at this point. So obviously, it's a lot more fun now for me to critique other people because I've taken over 7,000 sales calls. I've reviewed over 1,000 sales calls for my clients and teams that I've built. Now it's obviously more fun to to pick apart what everybody else is doing wrong and then show them some higher level tactics to fix it.
Yeah. Do you find some commonalities on what most of them are doing wrong tactically?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are they?
I mean, it's one we already talked about, just being way too friendly.
Mm.
And what changed the game for me is at the end of the day, you have to be honest with your prospect. And I think people have this fear that prospects are going to think that they're mean or they're salesy or they were rude or whatever. And they allow that belief to stop them from saying the things that they really want to say at the end of the call. So at the end of the call, when you hear objections, people ask me, Austin, don't you feel salesy or like you're pressuring people when you're handling their objections? And my response is, hey, don't you feel like shit when you don't handle their objections and then they don't buy from you? And then you run into them on the street a day from now, a month from now, 2 years from now, and they're in the exact same spot that they were 2 years ago when they originally talked to you. And you know for a fact you could have changed their life and you didn't because you didn't handle their objections, hold them accountable, and enroll them into your program. So for me, I'm not worried about how people look at me. Like, guys, I have a mustache. I drive a supercar. Like, I'm not really concerned with people's perceptions of me, but I can sleep good at night if I'm honest with people. I tell them the truth and I hold them accountable to push them in the direction of their dreams. So at the end of the call, if I get objections, I'm prepared to go to war because those aren't real objections anyway. That's just a lower version of themselves kind of creeping in and trying to keep them stuck because your brain is designed to keep you safe, not happy. Safety is hoarding the money. Happiness is moving into expansion, spending the money that you probably don't want to spend so you can get the life-changing result that you're after and on the call to learn about. So I just tell people the truth. I hold them accountable, tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And does that ruffle some feathers? Sure. Do maybe some people look at me and they're like, dude, you're mean? Maybe. But every single client that I've ever enrolled has always came back to me and thanked me for getting them out of their own way and helping them make the tough decision to join the program that I was selling at the time or my program that I sell now. They will always thank you later. And I know that I can sleep good at night because that's the truth. You don't hold people accountable, dude, you're doing them a disservice. They are on the call because they want to buy from you. And if you don't help them buy from you, they're going to hate you later anyway.
Heck yeah, man. And for anyone who's listening or watching this, I've been coughing like crazy on mute. So if I go nuts here, we can just laugh at me publicly. That's okay. Um, for a lot of people who could be in high ticket sales that are, either watching this or listening to stream, some of the common objections you mentioned that you do see some commonalities, whether it's like, I need to talk to my spouse, I need to think about it, I need to do X, Y, and Z. What are some things that they could be doing in their spare time? Maybe if, step 10 is working with you, let's say they're at step 2 or 3, some things they could be practicing in their spare time to fight objections that only would come up at the end of a call.
Well, I think most people have what they want to say.
Mm.
They just don't have the courage to say it. So
Why
if
is
somebody
that?
looks
Mental
at me,
blocks?
yeah, if somebody looks at me and they're like, dude, I need to think about it. Most people, 99% of the sales world of people would say, oh, dude, yeah, I totally understand, man. What do you want to think about? I would just look at them and say, no, you don't. Like, I just tell people the truth. And so, like, we can role play an objection if you want, and I can give you like an idea of what that looks like if you want me to handle whatever objections you got. But it's like at the end of the day, these people are on the call because they want help. And so you just have to tell them the truth. It's like, dude, I really need to check in with my spouse. And let's say that you're on a weight loss offer. It's like, awesome. Does your spouse have a six pack? Is your spouse in the health and nutrition space? Does your spouse eat healthy? No, 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 no. Your spouse is overweight. Got it. No offense, but your spouse is radically unqualified to give you advice
Yeah, I
on
shouldn't
if
laugh.
you should do this program or not. Right? Like, it is kind of funny though. Like, think about it. It's like,
You're totally right.
dude, you would never go to your friend that's the most overweight person you know and ask them for fitness advice. We love them, they're our friend, but we just don't go to them for fitness advice. Maybe they crush it in the crypto
maybe a
world.
restaurant advice, like, hey, where
Yeah,
do
or
I
maybe
get
they
something
crush
really
it in
yummy?
yeah, crypto, maybe that's their thing. We go to restaurants or crypto and that's our guy, right? But
Yeah.
if they're overweight, we don't go and ask for fitness advice. So why would you go to your spouse? I get it, the mother or the father of your children, but at the end of the day, they just can't give you their best advice and opinion on this. If anything, they're going to say no, because if you're eating healthy, that's going to shape the way that they have to cook dinner and the decisions that they have to make. Now they feel pressure to be accountable. If anything, they're just going to say no because it's going to impact their lifestyle and make a change that they don't want to make. So why would you go to them knowing they're just going to say no? If this is something you want to do, let's just do it. So it's a lot of things like that where we're just holding people accountable. It's really just reframing people's mind on how they're viewing a situation. It was just reframing. All right, well, I need to check in with my spouse. I'm just going to reframe them that that's a really bad idea. Well, dude, I can't afford it. I'm just going to reframe them on they can't not afford to do it. There's just constantly reframing. Look, guys, most people, I hate to admit, mentally, they're not where they need to be. Like most people aren't reading books. Most people aren't listening to podcasts. Most people aren't investing in themselves. And like it or not, most people are conditioned from the day that they're born to be average and normal humans in society that go to college and get a degree and then work a safe job. Like that's just how most people are born and raised. So if we know that we're fighting against, let's say they're 35 years old, we're fighting against 35 years of programming and conditioning. Of course, they're going to have objections. Of course, they're going to tell you they can't afford it or they need to think about it. They need to check in with their spouse. Like that's just natural. But we are bad people and we are bad coaches and we are bad sales reps if we tell them that that's okay and we don't step up and step out and take a stand for them and help them start making better decisions at the age of 35 so they can make the rest of their life the best of their life. We're doing them a disservice by keeping them stuck in the same patterns that got them in this bad situation to begin with.
What's the hardest objection you've ever had to overcome? Like it's always spouse, or I don't have money, or I got to think about it, or the timing's not right. Is there or even tell us the craziest objection you've ever had?
I mean, dude, I've had the objection of like, yeah, I really want to do it. Just give me 1 second. They pull up the internet, click, click, click on the keyboard. Like, look, I got to wait a week. It's like, great. What were we clacking on the keyboard for? Look, Mercury is in retrograde right now. Not a good time to make an investment.
So they're literally like looking at like, well, what do they call that? They call it astronomy or something?
Yeah, astrology, I think. They're looking at
astronomy is stars.
Yeah.
No, whatever, dude. They're looking at something that's way above my pay grade. Like, I had a woman one time and she was with her partner and I pitched them the price and they look at each other and then they're like, yeah, we should do this. And they're like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm closing this deal. The one lady looks down, leans forward with her necklace and she spins like this thing she had on her necklace. And it's like spinning and spinning and spinning. And I'm just like, the anticipation's killing me. And then it finally stops after like 20 seconds of spinning, like dangling from her neck. And then she looks at me, she goes, let's do it. And I was like, great, I'm ready for the card number. Collect your credit card number. And then once the credit card was in the books, I said, hey, by the way, what was that? What was the whole spinny thing? She goes, oh, I just had to make sure that the universe was in alignment with this decision. And I said, what if it would have spun a quarter inch the other way? She goes, wouldn't have bought. And like, it's like, what,
Really?
how do you, I don't know how to handle that. Like that time it worked out, but like, what if it didn't? Like, I don't like, do I just tell her to spin it again? Like, what do I do with that?
Best 2 out of 3. Yeah.
Explain
Yeah.
why the universe is not qualified to give her that type of advice.
Yeah. There's been
Magic 8
crazy
ball.
stuff. Yeah. Crazy. I mean, 7,000 sales calls. Like I had a guy on a sales call one time, like just pulled a cup out of his desk and peed in it while we're talking. I'm like, dude, what are we doing here? Like, just go to the bathroom. Like you name it, I've experienced.
Guy. Oh
And
my gosh.
didn't close them. Go figure.
So you know, but you're kind of doing 2 different things. I mean, it's all sales, right? Everything's sales. But you're doing a couple different things. You're helping other businesses like scale, but then you're also working with individual salespeople. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing in both of those, and there's the one that you enjoy more.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I enjoy one or the other more. With the business owner stuff, there's a lot more nuance. So you have calendar questions, you have routing forms, you have post-call booking pages, automations, reminder emails with testimonial. Like there's just a lot of stuff that goes into the business owner stuff. So it's very nuanced, but it's a lot of fun. Like I would consider myself a professional problem solver. If somebody comes to me making less than 100 grand a month, I can show them how to scale to 100K a month like yesterday. And if they're at 100K a month, I could show them how to scale to 1 million a month like in a couple months. And that's a lot of fun to do. On the sales side of things, like with sales reps, I was a sales rep. And I think the issue, like back when I started 5.5, 6 years ago, like it wasn't cool to be a high ticket closer. No one even knew what it was. And it was very new. Now in 2025, I think it's become this like really cool job title of like, I'm a remote high ticket closer. Unfortunately, I think a lot of these people are sold that they're going to make $20,000, $30,000 a month in commissions. And 99% of closers don't. And that's because they lack the skill set and they were kind of sold the dream without the actual tangible skills and the mindset and the work ethic to back it up. So, and when I was a closer, I averaged 30,000 a month in cash as a commission closer. So that's a lot of fun to help the dream that they were sold actually manifest and come to reality by teaching them the skill set, how to find the right offers, how to close at the highest level, handle objections, etc. So they can make 15, 20, 30 plus thousand a month in commission. That's a lot of fun as well. Obviously, I think there's bigger impact with the businesses because as they scale their business, they're helping more people. Helping an individual closer kind of just supports them and their family, which is very fulfilling and a lot of fun. They both have their nuance. They're both a little bit different. Either way, I enjoy doing both.
Oh, that's awesome. And there's quite a bit of difference, right? I mean, when you're talking, obviously, I think mindset's big on both, right? Is they're selling individually or they're trying to scale. Um, is there a big difference in what you're teaching to these? Whether you're not just teaching them to close. I mean, I'm sure it's a different skill set, but talk to us about the differences of whether you're doing this B2C or you're doing this to individual sales guys.
Yeah, well, think about it this way: a closer can only control how they are in the box. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is like they're not involved in the marketing, they're not involved in the fulfillment, they probably didn't pick the price. The payment plans are kind of limited to what they can and can't do. Like all they can do is get better at the skill of sales, which is very empowering because if you have one thing to focus on, if you can master it, you can make an ungodly amount of money. Where on the business owner side of things, they have creative control to do whatever they want.
Right.
So maybe we're adjusting their marketing, maybe we're raising their price, maybe we're building automations, maybe we're showing them how to get more testimonials and referrals and scale and hire and do strategy at a very high level. So it's like on the business owner side, there's a lot more creative control. So
Yeah.
there's a lot more decisions to be made, which is exciting. But at the same time, on the sales rep side of things, it's kind of also exciting to just be in control of your one skill set, which is sales on a 45-minute to hour long Zoom call. If you can master that one thing, you can make multiple six figures for every year for the rest of your life pretty easily. So they both have their nuance and are both exciting in their own ways.
Love it. Well, we do something here too, Austin, that we call segments. Okay, so I'm going to drop one for you here. This
Segments.
is segments brought to you by ClickFunnels.com. Get your free 14-day trial at ClickFunnels.com.
Do it if you're
Okay,
listening.
so here's the deal. You're a hero, but let's say that you were a zero. All right, so you go from hero right now. Listen, the mustache is gone, the supercar is gone, the plaques are gone, but you got to get back on top. I want to know what your formula is. You still have this, your same mindset, skill set. What are you going to do in the next 30 to 60 days to just ramp up as quickly as you can? What's your game plan?
When you say on top, what are we talking? Back to making millions of dollars a year? Are we talking just back to putting food on the table? When we say on
Oh
top, what
man,
are
well
we talking?
let's say to making, you said you can get people to scale from 0 to 100 grand a month. So let's say what's your quickest way you're going to get back to making six figures a month?
Yeah, I would identify a niche. I would create an offer. I would run paid ads. I would close damn near everyone I talk to on the phone at a price that I'm actually worth. And I would go 0 to 100 grand in maybe 3 months, maybe at most. But that's not as a business owner. If I
Yeah.
didn't have the business acumen, or maybe I had no desire, a lot of closers don't want to be a business owner. They're like, dude, I'm married, I have kids, like I just want to spend time with my family. I just want to make 20 grand a month. I can make 20 grand a month. I can travel. I can work from home. Like I'm happy. For those people, I would identify a good company, get in touch with that company, and then use my sales skills to sell my way to work for that company, whether they had a position for me or not. And then I would close deals at the highest level, collect as much cash as possible. Most closers make 10% commissions. I only need to close $200,000 a month in deals in cash. And then I make my 20 grand a month. And that would take me, I don't know, maybe 3 days to find a company, maybe 5 days of logistics to get on a call with them and sell them for me to work for them. And then I would need 30 days from there just to crush it on their offer. And I'd be back to making 20 grand a month.
There you go. There you go. This is awesome,
Yeah.
man. I love breaking down. And I love that you mentioned the psychology here.
Yeah,
Like
it's
you
cool.
are. This is mostly in between people's ears, right? Or they have a limit, and then it may be that hey, I'm only worth 20 grand a month. But for people who want to like learn more from you, or they want to get involved, or maybe they want to get some training from you, what's the best way for them to follow you or get in touch?
Yeah, on Instagram, it's at the Austin Medlin, TheAustinMedlin. And then on YouTube, I do a ton. My clients hit me up all the time. They're like, dude, you got to stop putting out these YouTube videos because I just give away so much for free on YouTube. There's hours and hours of content there. It's at just Austin Medlin, AUSTIN MEDLIN on YouTube.
Love it, Austin. Anything that we should have asked you that we didn't that you want to share with the people?
I mean, there's so much.
So
I feel
much.
I feel like being in the space for so long. I mean, 7,000 sales calls, you learn a lot. Working with 500 business owners, you learn a lot. Um, I think people are just far more capable than they think they are. And like today on April 21st at 6:52 p.m. Eastern, like I would just love to tell people if they're listening to this, you're God's highest form of creation. You can do, have, and be anything you want in this life. I don't care if you want to make 20 grand a month or 20 grand a day or 100 grand a day. Like you can. There's people out there already doing it, and those people are literally no better than you. They've just A, been in the trenches longer, and B, been punched in the face way more times than you have been. And when I was new to closing, I had this ego, but I had to get humbled. I had to get punched in the face to earn my stripes and to get to where I am today. And the people doing it, the people you look up to, the people on the internet, people making millions of dollars, like they're just crazy enough to bet on themselves. And there's a
Right.
good book I read 10, 15 years ago. It's called Crazy as a Compliment: How to Zig While Everyone Else Zags. And that book really unlocked everything for me because I've always been called crazy. They're like, dude, you're doing this, you're nuts, you're this, you're that. And I always thought it was a bad thing. And then I read this book and the title says it all. Crazy is a compliment. If you're not being called crazy, you're not pushing the boundaries, you're not pushing your limitations, and you're not doing anything that's probably worth doing. And I was like, oh, this is a good thing. I need to push myself more so more people think I'm absolutely insane. And that's how I know I'm on the right path. Because while everybody else goes left, I go right. If everyone goes right, I'm going back to the left. I don't want to follow what the masses are doing, or else I'm just going to get what the masses have, which in today's day and age, sadly to say, it's just not that much.
Yeah. Oh man, that's
What-
sage advice for sure, man.
Yeah.
Austin, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for being an awesome guest here on ClickFunnels Radio. We really appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you guys.